Your fancy $1,000 Glock might have just turned into a pricey hunk of metal courtesy of one of these classic shooter mistakes. Over the years, I've seen too many folks damage their semi-autos simply because they didn't know better or ignored basic maintenance. In some cases, these blunders can even lead to catastrophic failure. Today, we're diving into 13 of the most common ways people end up ruining perfectly good pistols. Quick heads up, everything you're about to hear is based on my personal time behind the trigger, time spent on the range, and conversations with other serious shooters. Your experience may differ. Always follow proper safety practices and refer to your owner's manual for manufacturer-specific guidance. Number 13. Firing through malfunctions instead of diagnosing them. This one's a classic. Something goes wrong, and instead of figuring it out, the shooter just shrugs and keeps going. Whether it's a stovepipe, failure to extract, or a misfeed, these are early warning signs your firearm needs attention. Ignoring them is like driving coast to coast with the oil light glowing bright red. Take the stovepipe, for instance. When the spent casing doesn't fully eject and ends up sticking out of the ejection port, some folks just rack the slide and keep firing. But the real issue might be a worn extractor, a dirty chamber, or a tired recoil spring. Pushing through it just accelerates the wear and stress on parts that weren't designed to be abused. Even worse, firing after a squib load. That's when you hear a dull pop instead of the usual crack and the bullet gets stuck inside the barrel. Pull the trigger again and you risk blowing the gun apart. If your pistol starts acting weird, that's a red flag. Stop, inspect the issue, and only resume shooting once it's resolved. Number 12. DIY mods that trash your internals. Nothing screams bad decision like grabbing a Dremel and going to town on your pistol's internals. I've seen more guns ruined in home garages than I care to admit. The usual story goes something like this. It was working great until I tried to improve it. A common offender is the backyard trigger job. Someone thinks the trigger pull is too heavy, so they start messing with sear geometry. Problem is, unless you understand how those surfaces interact, you're just removing crucial engagement surfaces. That's how you end up with a dangerously light trigger, or one that doesn't reset reliably. I had a buddy polish up the contact surfaces on his striker-fired handgun. He didn't realize he was taking off too much material. By the next range day, his gun wouldn't function. Went from dependable to dead weight overnight. And let's not forget, folks, installing red dots with screws that are too long. Those fasteners can press into the firing pin channel or block internal movement. You may not notice it at first, but it'll jam up when you least expect it. Moral of the story? Internal mods should be left to certified gunsmiths who understand the engineering behind these systems. Number 11. Skipping basic part replacements. Trying to save a few bucks by skipping routine parts replacement. That might cost you big down the line. I've seen shooters dump hundreds into ammo and tactical gear, but won't replace a worn recoil spring that costs less than $20. That spring compresses and releases with every shot thousands of times. Over time, it loses strength. You'll notice failures to feed, weak ejection, or even short stroking. Instead of swapping it out, some folks just keep shooting until something major breaks. I've handled extractors worn so flat they couldn't hold a case. The hook was basically polished smooth because the recoil spring had lost tension long ago, and the shooter kept running it right up until it failed during a match. Magazine springs are another overlooked component. Leave your mags fully loaded for months and that tension drops off. Solution? Rotate your mags, keep a few extras, and replace those springs on a set schedule. Waiting for failure is asking to get sidelined. Number 10. Dry firing without using snap caps. Dry fire is an essential part of training, but only if you do it properly. Firing your weapon with no dummy rounds or snap caps can damage key components over time. Rimfire pistols chambered in .22 long rifle are especially vulnerable. The firing pin is designed to strike the rim of a cartridge. Without a brass case in there, it slams into the chamber wall, which can deform both the pin and the steel it's hitting. Even centerfire guns can take damage. Firing pins and strikers keep hitting hard surfaces again and again. Over time, you'll see mushroomed edges, cracks, or total failure. I've known some highly disciplined dry fire shooters who ended up with ignition problems because they didn't use snap caps. Snap caps cost less than a single box of ammo. They mimic the feel of a real round while protecting your internals with a soft, impact-absorbing primer. If you're putting in the time to train, go the extra mile and protect your equipment while you're at it. Number 9. Limp wristing, like you're dancing the cha-cha. One of the most overlooked problems I see, especially with newer shooters running polymer-framed pistols, is the infamous limp wrist malfunction. If you're not holding your handgun firm enough, you're choking the energy needed to cycle the action. Here's what's really going on. A semi-automatic pistol relies on a stable frame to absorb recoil and let the slide do its job. If your grip is soft or your wrist is floppy, some of that recoil energy gets absorbed by your arm instead of pushing the slide all the way back. Result? Ejection failures, stovepipes, or the slide not going fully into battery. Polymer-framed handguns are especially susceptible to this because they're light. Without the mass of a steel frame to resist movement, the whole gun jerks around under recoil unless your grip is locked in tight. I've watched shooters blame their ammo, their gun, or even the weather when in truth, it was their lazy grip that was messing everything up. Fixing it is easy. Commit to a strong, two-handed grip. Lock your wrists forward and control that gun like you mean it. The more consistent your grip, the more reliable your pistol will run. Number 8. Easing the slide, like you're putting a baby to bed. This one makes my blood boil. Too many shooters ride the slide forward like they're scared it might bite. They ease it down by hand after inserting a new mag, then wonder why the round doesn't chamber properly or the gun misfires. That slide is built to slam forward under spring tension for a reason. It needs that full speed motion to pick up a round from the magazine, push it into the chamber, and lock the barrel in battery. If you ride the slide slowly, you're robbing the system of its momentum. The outcome? Misfeeds, light strikes, or out of battery conditions that can ruin your day, or worse, cause a dangerous malfunction. I've seen people fire rounds that weren't fully seated, which can lead to case rupture or a jammed gun. Even when the gun does fire, the reduced energy causes ejection problems, turning your practice session into a malfunction drill. And here's the kicker. If you train yourself to baby the slide, you'll repeat that mistake under pressure. Muscle memory takes over in a real-world scenario. The fix? Simple. Pull the slide back and let it fly. Let the machine run like it was designed to. Number 7. Running garbage magazines and expecting perfection. You can have the most finely tuned pistol on earth, but if you're feeding it with junk magazines, you're setting yourself up for failure. I've lost count of how many range failures I've traced back to bad mags, either cheap knockoffs or worn-out factory units. Let's start with the feed lips. These are precision cut to guide rounds smoothly into the chamber. If they're bent, cracked, or out of spec, rounds can nosedive or jam halfway in. And don't even get me started on people who run steel-cased ammo in beat-up mags, double trouble. Then there's the spring. It might work fine for the first few rounds, but if that spring's fatigued or corroded, you'll start seeing failures toward the end of the stack. Instead of blaming the ammo or the gun, the real issue is that your spring has gone soft. Bargain bin mags are another problem. They might look the same on the outside, but inside, they're a mess cheap springs, warped followers, and inconsistent tolerances. Add to that years of filth and dried up lube, and you've got a recipe for failure. Solution? Stick with proven magazine brands. Replace your springs when they get weak. Keep your mags clean and inspect the feed lips for damage. Think of magazines as part of the weapon system, not optional accessories. Number 6. Forcing things during takedown or reassembly. When someone starts manhandling parts during a cleaning session, jamming, prying, or twisting like they're working on a seized tractor engine, you already know something's about to go sideways. Your pistol isn't built to take abuse during takedown. It's a finely machined tool, not a pry bar project. One of the most common screw-ups: guys fighting their recoil spring and guide rod like it's a wrestling match. Instead of aligning everything properly, they just start pushing harder. That's how you warp guide rods or crack locking blocks. Springs should seat with minimal effort. If they're being forced, you're doing it wrong. I've watched people follow online tear-down videos, realize something doesn't quite line up midway, and instead of stopping, they force the slide back on anyway. That kind of guesswork is how you break firing pin safeties or misalign crucial internal parts. And tossing aside mystery springs during cleaning, that's just asking for failure. That little piece you thought was optional might be the only thing keeping your striker block from dragging. Another common disaster is using the wrong tool, like a screwdriver, to yank out slide, stop levers, or retention pins. That's how springs get bent or broken beyond repair. Bottom line, if something isn't sliding together with minimal resistance, stop, pull out your manual, double-check the orientation, and never ever force it. Your gun should practically reassemble itself if you're doing it right. Number 5. Being overzealous with cleaning or using the wrong supplies. There's a fine line between good maintenance and straight-up abuse, and some shooters cross it every time they clean their pistol. These are the folks who think more pressure, harsher chemicals, stiffer brushes is the formula for reliability. In reality, they're wearing down critical surfaces that were carefully machined at the factory. Take that guy with the wire brush on his aluminum frame, thinking he's just removing fouling. What he's really doing is destroying the frame rails, widening clearances, and ruining the fit between slide and frame. Now the gun feels loose, and accuracy takes a dive. Then there's the chemical cocktail crowd people who use brake cleaner, engine degreasers, or carb cleaner because it's all the same stuff. Those solvents strip finishes, dissolve polymer parts, and leave metal bone dry with zero lubrication. I once knew a guy who used aircraft stripper to clean his polymer pistol. Sure, the gunk came off, but so did the frame texture, and the internals started warping weeks later. Proper maintenance doesn't mean overkill. Stick to products made for firearms, use them sparingly, and understand that clean enough to function properly is the goal, not museum-level shine. Number 4. Treating cleaning like a once-a-year chore. On the opposite end of the spectrum are those who rarely clean their pistols at all. If the gun still cycles, they assume it's fine. But every trigger pull leaves behind residue carbon, unburned powder, and metal fouling that acts like a slow-acting poison inside your firearm. The barrel alone takes a beating. I've looked down bores, so corroded they resembled sewer pipes, rifling completely eroded by moisture and neglect. But the real danger lies in the action. Crud in the striker channel can gum up trigger function. Built-up fouling around the extractor weakens its bite on spent casings. Dirty feed ramps can cause misfeeds or stovepipes. I've heard guys say things like, "It's a Glock, it doesn't need cleaning." That may be true to a point, but even the most rugged pistols aren't immune to wear from neglect. Every round fired without maintenance increases the chance of a malfunction, or worse, a failure under pressure. Best practice: clean after every range trip. If you haven't shot it in a while, wipe it down and inspect it once a month. It's basic insurance against failure. Number 3. Getting lube wrong. Too little or way too much. Some shooters go bone dry with their pistol, while others turn it into an oil slick. Both habits cause problems, just in opposite directions. Dry cycling your pistol without proper lubrication is a surefire way to cause metal wear. That grit you feel in the slide isn't just carbon, it's unlubricated, steel scraping against steel. I've seen striker-fired pistols fail to ignite because the firing pin channel was full of microscopic metal shavings and debris, and extractors worn down to nubs because they were operating bone dry. Then there are the folks who drench everything in oil. A light mist becomes a thick sludge that traps dirt, powder residue, and lint. After a few hundred rounds, their gun feels like it's been dipped in molasses. Trigger pull gets heavy, cycling slows, and you end up cleaning more than shooting. Solution? Apply high-quality gun oil sparingly, just a drop or two, on key wear points, slide rails, barrel hood, locking lugs. If it's dripping, you're overdoing it. Think of it like seasoning. Cast iron, you want coverage, not saturation. Number 2. Not checking for barrel obstructions. This one can cost you more than your pistol. It can cost you your fingers. Firing a round through a block barrel is one of the most dangerous mistakes you can make. Say your pistol took a fall in the woods. Dirt or mud ends up in the muzzle. You don't notice, rack around, and pull the trigger. That bullet now has nowhere to go. Pressure spikes instantly, and the barrel bulges or worse, explodes. I've seen handguns turned into shredded metal in cases like this. Then there are squib loads, undercharged rounds, that get stuck halfway down the barrel. You hear a soft pop, think it's just a dud, and send another round behind it. Now you've got 2 projectiles colliding inside a sealed pipe. That's how catastrophic failures happen. Even over-lubing the bore can cause pressure spikes. A bit of excess oil might not seem like a big deal, but under high pressure, liquid doesn't compress, it obstructs. Check your barrel before and after shooting. Shine a light down it. It takes 10 seconds and could prevent permanent injury or a destroyed firearm. Number 1. Feeding it bad ammunition or the wrong caliber. If you want to trash your pistol fast, just feed it ammo that's cheap, dirty, or flat out wrong for the chamber. I've seen shooters mix up 9mm and 380 ACP because the cartridges look similar. One trigger pull later, they're holding a cracked slide and wondering what went wrong. Even ammo labeled correctly can be risky if it's poor quality. Bargain basement factory loads often suffer from inconsistent powder charges or sloppy case dimensions. That translates to failures to feed, light primer strikes, or worse, dangerous pressure issues. Reloads are another gamble, unless you trust the source. Your buddy might swear by his custom blend, but if his scale was off or his cases weren't trimmed right, you're playing with fire. One hot load can warp your chamber or shear off your extractor. And then there's steel-cased ammo. Sure, it's cheap, but it's also hard on extractors and dirties up the action faster. Not every pistol is designed to handle it without accelerated wear. The answer? Stick with high-quality, factory-loaded brass ammo that matches what's stamped on your barrel. Cutting corners here is like putting tractor fuel in a sports car. You might get a few miles, but it's going to end badly.